Hello everyone, and welcome to this much delayed update for Clean Valley Farms. Standing up here in the fairy garden that Shocks and I cleaned up yesterday, where I found a whole bunch of what I believe to be young apple trees, much like this guy here. So yeah, yesterday while Shocks and I were cleaning up the fairy garden out in the front yard here, I noticed underneath this one apple tree we had dozens of ground fall apples that had been left to sit, and it looks like this is not the first year that's happened. I found so many young apple trees that had sprouted up and survived the winter, because it's spring now, so clearly they're Manitoba hardy trees. So what I did was I pulled up most of them, but I left this big one here, and I left this one here so that it can kind of grow up and perhaps, you know, be matching apple trees on either side here. But what I did was I looked at the bark on the trees, the young saplings I guess they would be, and I looked at these little leafing budding nodes, and anything that seemed to be the same I pulled out for future apple trees. So let's take a look at those, and you guys can tell me whether or not you agree. So right now I've got probably half a dozen at least of these sitting in this water jug here. This is full of aquaponic fish tank water that didn't make it from the old system, so I figured I'd put it to use. But looking at the bark and the buds, these all look to me like they're going to grow up to be apple trees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant most of these in the side yard so we can get started on our food forest. Today's a beautiful day, so I'm doing it today. Over here, currently hiding out in the sump tank of the aquaponics, I've got a few more of these same apple tree, I'm hoping, seedlings, saplings. I guess they'd be saplings, yeah. Anyway, so I ran out of room in the bottleneck, so into the sump tank they go. It's good, nutritious water for them. Found a few spruce trees out there too, so I figured I might as well put these guys in the water until I figure out where I'm going to plant them and keep them alive. Free tree's a free tree's a free tree. So while I still don't know what that blue thing is technically, that's what I'm going to be using to drill my holes, because it doesn't really seem like any of the root systems are wider than that. And just in case they are, I've got a little garden spade, got some bamboo stakes here and some PVC pipes I'm not currently using so that I can hold these things upright in the wind. And basically, I don't know if you can see where that bush is, but the bush there and the telephone pole across the street, which you may or may not be able to see through the trees, effectively marks our property line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant them just inside the line, so when we do build a fence they won't be in the way. Guess I better get started if I want to have some apple trees up and growing. Alright, so I've got my big blue screw thingy here that I used for the Dakota fire pit. Got my spade, figured out where I'm going to put things. I'm just going to use the spade to start this hole, because I'm too lazy to get the proper garden spade. And here we go, in theory. Like a giant worm. I seem to have hit some roots already. But it pulls out a good layer of dirt. And it's a good workout. Guess I'm putting a smaller tree in this hole. There we go. And pull. I don't know what it's for, but it makes holes real well. Alright, we'll get back in a second once I've got a tree started in here. Alright, so now that I've got this thing pretty much in the hole here, I'm going to plant my piece of PVC so I don't forget that this is an intentional thing. And I'm just going to fill it back in because I don't know any better, and I'm counting on you guys to let me know if I'm screwing this up. Lawnmower's not going to like that much, but such is life. And in theory, here is our first apple tree that we've planted here on Clean Valley Farms. I've got quite a few more of these to plant, so I'm not going to waste your time with that, but we will get back so I can show you just how far the row managed to go today. Alright, stick around, I'll be right back. Well, while it doesn't look like much now, I've got 5 of the larger ones planted more or less in a row here. I ended up getting a little crooked. But that's okay, because we stayed on our side of the fence line. And the neighbor on this side's pretty cool with us anyway, so that's awesome. So we got 5 of these. Hopefully they'll all be good eaten apples. The apple tree they fell from was pretty darn good, tasty apple when we found it. So we move from the light to the dark here, but still, I can't wait to see how these do. Looking forward to watching them grow, pruning them, shaping them, and of course having plenty of apples for cobblers, pies, and of course cider type mead. Alright, that leaves me with 4 little trees. The 4 trees that are left I figure are either from this year or the year before. They're not very big at all. So I'm going to try a few different types of experiments with them. I'm going to do one in a cloth grocery bag, much like Rob Bob's got his, I believe it's a papaya in the air pruning bag. And of course I'm going to put one in a bucket because that just wouldn't be JT Bear if I didn't try growing it in a bucket, right? So we'll get started on that and we'll see how those look. I figured for a change I'll do something properly and actually put one of them into this, I think it's a 1-liter nursery pot. So we'll start with that one. So I've got a little cloth in there, and at the bottom of it I put some of those clay pellets. I'm starting to phase these out of my aquaponics system. I'm going to do a video update on that for the main channel probably in the next couple of days. But that should be quote-unquote good drainage, right? Here we have the sapling in question. Like I say, I'm 98% that these are apple trees based on the similarities of the bark and the similarities at the, I don't know, buds, leaf nodes, whatever those would count as. I'm not a horticulturalist. I'm just trying to have some food. But anyway, there's our sapling. And then here I've got a bunch of secondhand soil from like the kale that I brought out and a few things that I've transplanted into the aquaponics. Check the main channel if you want to see that. But I figure there's no reason I can't use that to fill in that. Why not, right? I'd say that looks happier already. Just gonna give that a good watering with some of the aquaponic sump tank water. So next up I'm gonna want to try and plant one of them into this. In theory it should do the whole air pruning and wicking combo. So I'm gonna go grab some compost from out back. Now while this stuff is nowhere near ready, I just need to fill some space right now. I can put more soil in there later on. It's still it's a very little sapling, so it'll be fine. So here's the sapling that I'm going to put in the bag, again displaying all of the same characteristics as everything else I've planted today, hoping that they're apple trees. But like I said at the beginning of this, they compared very well with the apple trees that are confirmed in that same bed, so yeah. Anyway, into the bag it goes with the rest of my secondhand soil. Now if that works, I'm going to say that's 99 cents well spent on the bag, because that worked out perfect. Well, while I don't know if that's going to be a good idea or a bad idea, it's where it's going to stay for now. Might actually put a second one over in the other box over there, because at least it matches, right? Interesting bit of wrought iron in the middle of nowhere. Alright, and what that leaves me with is the ones that I'm going to put in the bucket. But unfortunately, I don't have an available bucket for now. So I'm just going to throw them into the aquaponic bed and keep them moist and hopefully keep them growing. I guess we'll finish off today with a look at some of the berry bushes, since this is planting apple trees seems pretty permaculture to me. Here are the 2 gojis, experimenting with putting them underneath the bedroom window there. They're nice and pointy, you know, so I figure there's a hint of security in that and should make for good bird viewing. They both seem to be doing just fine though. Apparently they can get to 13 feet across and 8 feet tall according to the tag. If anybody's got goji berries, wolf berries, Christmas berries, let me know how big yours are. Should I really space them 26 feet apart? Maybe just 13 feet apart? Undecided, but it's getting on time to put them into the ground, so I need to figure it out. Here is the black lace elderberry. Zoom in a bit there. Definitely look like, oh, focus. Oh, my camera needs a macro setting so bad. Anyway, there's a nice dark purple there, nice dark purple there, showing up in a few places. So I do think this did in fact survive the incredibly cold Manitoba winter. Well, it was cold for me. I'm sure it was cold for the plants that came from the same place I did. And technically, this wasn't necessarily supposed to be hardy enough to survive this winter, so Very cool. Here's a look at the smoky Saskatoon. This is definitely looking like it made it just fine. Looking forward to finding somewhere to plant this in the yard too. I'm going through them though while I'm out here with the dog and checking the tags and trying to figure out what kind of space they need and who should be planted by who. Looks like this particular honeyberry, though, this is the Borealis Haskap, definitely got green there, tip there, tips there. So this one survived. Fantastic. Let's check the other honeyberry and call this one done. So this is the Polar Jewel honeyberry, and it is clearly doing just fine. I remember last year around this time I thought this thing was dead, so in my opinion any signs of life therefore are very positive on this bush. We did get a few berries off this last year, and I'm thinking this year we're gonna get a lot more. So yeah, once again I need to get this into the soil. Maybe by Sunday, if the weather holds. We shall see. Alright everybody. So as always everybody, I thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me here on Clean Valley Farms. I really do appreciate the time spent here, and as always, if you've got any advice for me, throw it down into the comments below. I greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, if you want to comment, what is your favorite berry bush to grow and why? So some thoughts for the comments below. Alright everybody, have yourselves an absolutely wonderful day from this point on. I'll see you next time.